What's up, y'all? This is Alex from The Rim Review. The Rim Review is a page that offers in-depth player analysis and gives nuance to the way you watch basketball. In this series, we're going to be going over every single prospect in the upcoming NBA draft. Some of which you may already know, however, there are going to be numerous hidden gems we explore in the coming weeks. In today's episode, we're going to look at the national champion winning forward out of UConn, Stephon Castle. When looking at Castle's game offensively, there are a few strengths to note. The first of which is his ability to play off of 2 feet. He does a great job getting his balance under him, which allows him to have some dynamic finishes. Secondly, I would consider him to be a solid player in transition. While he's not always going coast to coast, he's such a good athlete and it becomes a lob threat in transition, which is why he averages 1.264 points per possession in transition. Finally, he shows flashes of being a really solid passer and does a decent job protecting the basketball, which is why he has a 1.98 assist to turnover ratio. There are still numerous offensive weaknesses to Castle's game. The first of which is the fact that he has a really bad problem with charges. He has a really bad habit of extending his arm and it frequently leads to offensive fouls. He also sometimes will not notice somebody sliding into a position to take a charge, or once again, it leads to turnovers. It's something that you may think is minor, however, these turnovers and fouls do add up. Secondly, he really struggles to attack closeouts, where he only averaged 0.779 points per possession on spot-ups, which put him in the 27th percentile in college basketball. Next, Stephon Castle's shooting is really bad. He shot 26% from beyond the arc, which is extremely questionable. I will say, in the back half of the season, he shot 33% from behind the arc, which is a good sign, and NBA shooting coaches have frequently been able to get the most out of players. I really doubt that he ever becomes a decent shooter, but maybe he can become a shooter that you at least can't dare to shoot wide open threes. Finally, he settles at times, and I think he takes a few too many non-rim twos for me to like. Now, let's get into the film and watch Stephon Castle on offense. In this possession, Castle runs extremely hard, and watch this lob dunk. Really just a highlight play. On this possession, it's another example of that, and what I love to see is that he's running the floor hard and is engaged, and that athleticism is just elite. On this possession, Castle is going to push, and he's initially pushing to score. But what he does well is right there. Just look at this kick. Last minute, once he feels this guy's swipe, he knows that he has to kick it to Alex Caravan, who says tick tick, boom. One thing that I do think he could work on a little bit is not settling. Right here, he's gonna call for a drag screen, twist it, and this is horrible. This is not a shot you want to get. It's a losing shot. Non-rim twos are killer. There's 22 seconds in the shot clock. Get downhill, you could maybe have a Nash dribble through. You can kick it out to Tristan Newman and reset, but this is not a winning shot. Now let's watch him in isolation. On this possession, Castle initially starts off in the corner. However, he's going to flash, face up, and have a nice spin move and a 2-foot touch shot. I love seeing him play off of 2. Right here, Castle's got to call for the ball with a switch on him. Have an isolation matchup. But once again, he kind of forces it and jumps right into his guy. He's off balance very clearly, and it leads to plays like that. One thing that I think is interesting is while I think Castle is a pretty good athlete, I don't think his handles are quick enough to keep up with his athleticism. That's why he kind of stumbles right here. He just can't dribble the basketball quick enough to keep up with his speed, which leads to problems. On this possession, it's another weak spot in Castle's game in isolation. Right here, Castle drifts to the corner, and then he doesn't get by his man, there's no separation, and he just extends his elbow, something he does a lot. Now, let's watch more of a minor part of his game, but something he is good about, which is his post scoring. He's very frequently going to be patient and back his guy down to score. It's really impressive, and I love seeing just his intelligence and creativity in the post. He probably won't do this much in the NBA, but it's just cool to see how he scored a lot in college. What a great baseline spin there, and an even better dunk. Right here, Castle once again is trying to back down his man to get to his spot. He backs him down, 2-foot, right-hand touch shot. Now let's start off and watch Stephon Castle as a screener. On this possession, Castle is going to set what is known as a touch screen in this horns action. What I mean by a touch is Castle very quickly pushes out, gets out of the screen, and then plays off two to score. He's not going to set a lot of screens in the NBA, but more often than not, a lot of new teams are setting screens. It's something that's very common. Typically, it's with a shooting threat as a guard, but it is still more often for guards to set screens than it used to be. So it's good to see that he has that ability. Right here, he's going to be in another situation. However, this time, he's actually going to be calling for the ball screen. He calls for the screen here and has an awesome spin move finish. His spin move is definitely one of his favorite moves and something he likes to get to a lot. Right here, in a dribble handoff, he's once again going to spin, keep his balance, and score. On this possession, he's going to call for a ball screen on the wing. It becomes kind of like a double drag. And then what I love to see here is look how good he is at keeping his defender on his hip once the defender is clipped. He's probing, physical, and has a nice touch shot finish. On this possession, it's another example of Castle being able to play off of two. Right here, he calls for a double drag, which is just when two guys set screens. Right here and here. And then a 2-foot finish. And what I mean by 2 feet is he jumps off of two here, but what's beneficial is he has now all of his force jumping into Kalkbrenner to have that finish. Right here on this clip, he's going to look to pass in a pick and roll situation. Right here, he's going to call for a screen. Xavier is in drop coverage because this guy right here is not at the level. And then this center is just going to run hard to get below him. And the second he does, Castle loads up and throws a great lob pass. On this clip, Castle's going to be in a dribble handoff situation where he's able to read and make a no-look pass to a backdoor cut. On this possession, Stephon Castle is going to be in a dribble handoff situation. Right here, Castle's going to come over, Klingen's going to twist, and now Castle is going downhill. Right here, Castle has an opportunity to make a wraparound pass to Klingen. However, he takes an extra dribble, and by that time, he's not looking at this guy, and he's predetermined that he's going to hit Klingen, that he doesn't notice the fact that this defender has already committed. The read really should be a dump off over here. However, Castle fully predetermined his read, and it led to a turnover. On this possession, Stephon Castle is going to call for a ball screen. He's in the corner here, however, he's going to lift and call for an empty screen, but then he takes one of the worst shots in basketball, which is a non-rim 2, and it's pretty contested. This is not the shot you want. It's not winning, and it's just not smart. I think right now you could dribble back up and hit Klingen because he has a switch, and that would be a mismatch, but you cannot shoot non-rim 2s. They're just not winning. They're not a winning formula. On this clip, Castle's going to once again call for a ball screen. I think he does a really nice job getting downhill and playing off two. However, the touch just wasn't there. On this next pick and roll situation, Castle's going to call for the ball. He's going to get another double drag. And what I love to see here is just a great skip pass read. So when Castle's up here, he initially is thinking of hitting the roll man, completely looks that way, but he sees the MIG fully coming over. So he says, okay, I'm going to hit it here. It's just like a triangle of reads, and that's just what he does. Now, let's watch him coming off of dribble handoffs and just other ways he tries to score on the perimeter. Right here, he comes off a DHO, doesn't see anything, so he resets the play. He then comes off of another DHO where he's left wide open, but he just can't knock it down. His shot is just not very consistent. It is actually somewhat consistent, it's just consistently not very good, to be honest. On this possession, Castle's going to call for another dribble handoff, get left wide open, and miss it again. Now let's look at him as a cutter, which is an area of his game that I think he is pretty solid in. Right here, he's going to cut through the slot, and he accelerates here, and it's that change of pace that's huge and great to see. On this next clip, it's another opportunity for Castle to cut. In the Final Four against Alabama, Castle really relied on his cutting, and it worked very well. Right here, he's going to cut from the corner and has a nice lob dunk. Now let's watch a little bit more of him playing on the perimeter, and on this possession, he's going against St. John's, and he's looking for the ball. He lifts up and knocks down a deep three. Great stuff. Right here, the ball gets to Clingan in the post. Castle's acting like he's screening, but then he pops back up. As you can see right here, Xavier's helping off of Castle and is fully committing to putting 2 on the ball here on Cam Spencer, but Castle makes him pay. Unfortunately, more often than not, Castle does not make the defense pay for helping off of him, and instead, he frequently rewards the defense. On this possession, Castle's playing on the wing, but as you can see, the defense is fully committed to this ball screen. Castle gets a wide open look and has a wedgie. Just not great stuff. It's more of the same for Castle on this possession as he relocates to the corner. He's going to backpedal into the corner to get open, be left wide open, he just can't make it fall. Now, let's finish off by watching Stephon Castle in closeout situations. On this clip, Castle's actually going to do a pretty nice job attacking the closeout. He pauses, plays off 2 feet, and has a great finish. Unfortunately for Stephon Castle, more often than not, the possessions look like the latter one, which we're about to watch. The spacing here isn't great, but now it's getting better. Castle catches, blows by, it just doesn't have the sharpest handle to keep up with his speed. I think he's a good athlete, but his handle needs to become crisper. Now, let's move on to the defense, which is the real reason why many scouts consider Stephon Castle to potentially be a top 5 pick. The first of which is his elite driving line defense, where Castle slides his feet, is physical, aggressive, and has active hands. He's the full package in driving line situations, and that's exactly why teams only score .579 points per possession against him in isolation. Secondly, his screen navigation is superb, and his ability to bully a ball screen is next to none, and that's why it's a .5 points per possession in the pick and roll against him. Next, Stephon Castle has trained himself to be excellent at remaining vertical and playing defense without fouling. It's great to see him provide help side rim protection despite not being very tall and do it without fouling, but it's really because he's trained himself to jump very much in a vertical manner. Finally, and this is just simply, he is an effort player. He's going to work hard defensively, he enjoys doing the gritty stuff, and that's what makes him a very special prospect. It's that level of effort that is going to allow him to succeed. When trying to find a weakness in Stephon Castle's game defensively, you're going to be looking for a while. However, the only weakness I really have noticed is the fact that he would be a bit undersized, especially if he comes in and plays the 3 or the 2. He wants to be a 1, but I don't think that's his true position, so there's potential for him to be just an undersized 3 in the NBA. However, if he plays the 2, it wouldn't really be that much of a difference. However, I think that's the only weakness, and it's really a minor one. Now, let's watch Stephon Castle defensively. Right here in this possession, Castle does an awesome job shooting the gap and then has a nice highlight dunk. He's aggressive and always going for steals. On this clip, I'm even more impressed with Castle. He's getting right up in his man, tips the ball, and is the first one to the floor to get the steal. When this ball is tipped, there are really 2 Creighton defenders and him, and arguably both Creighton defenders have an advantage on him. Despite this, Castle's not getting beat, and he's just straight grit. One thing that I do think he may do a bit too much is gamble for steals. On this possession, Castle goes for the steal rather than going to his man, and it leads to a wide open layup that is just smoked. Now, let's watch his rim protection, where right here, look at that, great transition defense. On this next clip, we're going to see him provide help side rim protection, which you just don't see very often from a guard. Look at how vertical he is when he's guarding this shot. There's literally a straight line up, and it causes a miss. His ability to play without fouling is just elite. Right here, going up against another guard / wing, multiple efforts, and look at this, it's like a pogo stick almost. 1, 2. 2 jumps, no fouls, straight verticality. Now, let's look at him in driving line situations where he truly thrives. On this possession, Castle's going to be in a gap, and now get back to his man. He goes under this ball screen, but then has awesome driving line defense to get a stop. On this clip, Castle's once again in another driving line situation. He goes under the screen, matches up with his man, and plays without fouling and stays in front of him. On this possession, it's another instance of driving line defense from Castle. He starts it off with fighting through those off-ball screens and now has to match up against Terrence Shannon Jr., the leading scorer in college basketball. It doesn't matter for Castle, and once again, look at this verticality he has here. This is just unmatched for someone who's 20 years old. Look at that. Just amazing. It's Drew Holiday-esque. Not that he's like Drew Holiday as a player, but that verticality is something he does really well. On this possession, he fights through the DHO, gets in, doesn't fall for pump fakes, and guards with his chest. Just textbook, perfect stuff. Now we're going to watch a little bit more of him in screen navigation situations. Right here, Castle's engaged, fights over the ball screen, stays in front of his man, and contests a tough shot. Right here, Castle's actually going to get clipped by this double screen. However, he doesn't give up on the play, has active hands, and he's able to tip it and get a steal. On this possession, it's a very similar instance to where Castle gets clipped but doesn't give up. Right here, he's going to get hit by the screen, but he's going to fight back into the play and get an awesome block. Now let's look at him a little bit more in closeout situations. Right here, Castle's going to close out, chop his feet well, stay in front of his man, and then body up and get an awesome block. On this possession, it's actually one of the few clips where Castle was bad. Right here, Stephon Castle's the MIG, which means he has to worry about potentially catching this guy. He doesn't tag until later because I think he thinks that Alex Caraban's going to get it, and Alex Caraban actually probably should be the MIG, but Castle thinks he is. So Castle's late getting out, and it leads to a 3. Now let's watch him defend the post, which is a really sneaky positive part of his game. Right here, he's getting posted up, yet he's going to compete, remain physical, and get a stop. Look at this. They just didn't have a chance. His level of competitiveness is unmatched and is, I think, going to make him a surefire player to have a long NBA career. Right here, he absorbs multiple bumps, stays vertical, and gets a stop. On this final clip, I just want to highlight a few things before. Firstly, they are playing Stonehill University. No offense to Stonehill, but I don't know anyone that has even thought about going there. Secondly, this game is a 37-point blowout in the second half. Castle can coast, but he chooses not to, and he's going to pick up full court and be fully engaged and aggressive in a blowout. You look at him here, he's sliding his feet, competing, and gets an awesome steal. It is plays like that that show you the effort and heart and mentality within Castle's game. When evaluating Stephon Castle, the big question is, can he develop his offensive game to a point where you're able to keep him on the court for his defense? And I think he can. I think his ability to play off of 2 feet and to make simple reads gets you really excited about him developing into someone that can be a connective piece offensively. He's never going to be a first, second, or third option. However, with NBA shooting coaches working on some fundamentals, I think he very easily could be a fourth or fifth option. And when you add his defensive presence, all of a sudden we're talking about a heck of a player. I think his ceiling is a world where he's an all-defensive caliber defender, and maybe he can develop a little bit of a better shot and continue to make simple plays offensively. And if he does that, that's going to help you compete and win championships. I think his more realistic outcome in his career is one where he maybe is a fifth starter, but more likely than not comes off the bench for a defensive specialist guy that you're going to give 18 to 25 minutes a game to. I know that's probably not what he wants, but I do think that that's realistically what's going to happen. But I don't think there's anything wrong about getting a player that is going to be an awesome defensive energy guy off the bench. I think his floor is if his defense doesn't necessarily translate to the next level. And what I mean by that is he's always going to be a really good defender. But if some of the spectacular plays that he's made, such as guarding tougher bigs or physicality and being able to play bigger than his size, if he can't continue to be spectacular and is only really good, him being a zero on offense could hurt him to the point where his career could be relatively short. As far as where I would draft him as high as 5, and I don't think he'll fall lower than 10. I think he's a really exciting prospect, and I think he has the potential for an awesome career. Once again, thank y'all for watching another episode of The Rim Review.